Okay, so I'm actually going to go over what we're doing this week. Um, you're reading this article by Andrew Leonard on page 131 to 135 in the Norton Field Guide, and then you're looking at these two sections of the handbook, which are going to go over how to incorporate material from an outside source into your own writing. And to practice, I've given you some assignments in discussion, but I've also completed an example and I'm going to explain it to you to help you. So again, I'm using the Joanna McKay essay as an example, but you are using this Black Friday Consumerism Minus Civilization by Andrew Leonard as for your post. So don't do the McKay essay, do the Andrew Leonard essay. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is write a works cited page citation. So this is part of a larger book. I'm citing the author of the essay, Joanna McKay, and I'm citing the specific title of the essay, McKay Joanna, Organ Sales Will Save Lives. And then I've got the textbook name, the editors, the publication city, the publisher, the year of publication, the page numbers, and the media format, which is print. So when you do the Andrew Leonard essay, which is in the same book and just a few pages over, your citation is going to look very similar. You can replace the author and the title and the page numbers and just double check all of this against your own copy. You might have a different version of the textbook than I do. Okay, the next part, you're going to write 3 different source introductions for the article or essay. I'm using them interchangeably. The Leonard piece was actually an article published in Salon where the McKay essay was a student essay for a class. But when we introduce an outside source, it's a good idea not to just start quoting, but to let the reader know, signal the reader that information is coming from a source. You can use that to let them know something about the author or something about the source. So here are 3 examples I might use for the McKay essay. According to Joanna McKay, right? That's very simple, and that's just giving her name. I could also do according to legal expert Joanna McKay, except of course she's not a legal expert, she's just a student. I might do in the student essay, organ sales will save lives. Again, you don't have to use the title. The title is listed in full on your works cited page, but sometimes the title might add something. Organ sales will save lives. It's kind of stressing that point. So if I were writing about organ sales, I might include the title. Sometimes I'll use a source more than once, in which case I don't need to give a lot of information, but I still want to signal that a source is being used, so I might just use the author's name, McKay, also. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is use a short quote in a sentence with an in-text citation. And anything you quote or paraphrase needs an in-text citation, and that in-text citation will lead you back to the works cited page. So here's an example. The essay argues, again, I'm signaling, and then I've got a direct quote. In third world countries, there are people willing to do anything for money. And here I did not use the author's name in the sentence, so I need to put it in the citation. And all I need in MLA format is the author's name and the page number. This can be a range 121 to 123, but obviously for one partial sentence, I don't need more than 1 page. Again, so you need this information, McKay, that tracks back to the works cited page so that the reader can go and look up where this source came from. Paraphrasing is another way of putting information from a text, from an outside source, into your own writing. So when we paraphrase, we take something that's in the text, and here I've just included the full quote so you can see the changes I made. When you paraphrase, you won't include the quote. That's the whole point of the paraphrase. So millions of people take risks to their health every day for money or simply for enjoyment. And here again, I don't have the whole sentence, or I'm not going to end the sentence before my sentence ends. So I put the period outside. But when we paraphrase, we want to change both the sentence structure and the individual word choices. So I'm not going to just say, instead of millions of people, I'll say many, many people or many, many individuals. We're not just going to plug and play and write the same sentence with slightly different wording. We're going to have to put it in a different order. And it can be helpful in that case to get that signal phrase. So McKay also suggests, and you can use signal verbs like suggest or states or emphasizes or reports or points out. You know, there are many different words like that that you can use to work information in. And then I'm not going to start with the millions of people. I'm going to McKay also suggests that donating a kidney for pay is the moral equivalent of skydiving or becoming a firefighter. So what I did here was I took the basic underlying point that she's making and I stated it. And then I used these risk-taking activities. So I've changed it somewhat. So I think it still means the same thing. I'm spelling it out a little more. But you want to have the basic meaning. You don't want to change the meaning, and you don't just want to plug and play with synonyms. Also, I actually made it a little bit longer. Oftentimes, when you paraphrase, you can make it shorter and more concise, which is another benefit of paraphrasing. Okay, sometimes we'll want to quote someone in an article who is not the author of the article, and you'll notice that we'll usually do something like Joanna McKay states, but when the, the the person being quoted is not the author of the article, we need to make it clear who is speaking. John Paul II states that organ donation for money compromises the dignity of the human person. But John Paul II is not going to be on our works cited page, and the reader needs to know where this quote came from. So what we do when we have a quote from somebody who is not the author of the article is we do QTD, which stands for quoted in McKay. Need the name that tracks back to works cited and the page number. This was on a different page. Okay. And then sometimes we want to have a long quote. You want to choose your long quotes carefully. You don't just want to use them to take up space in your paper. But sometimes you want the original wording. Sometimes you want the author's voice or the full text of a law. So here is an example of a long quote. I'm not going to read it to you, but I want to introduce that quote. I follow with a colon, which is on top of the semicolon. You have to hit shift on your keyboard. And then most sentences in a MLA format, the new paragraph is indented 1/2 inch, and then the rest of the margin will be full out. But long quotes are indented a full inch, so they're indented one more tab than a regular new paragraph, and then they're all on the same line. And then in your paper, this will be double spaced like the rest of your paper. You don't make it shorter. And then with a long quote, the punctuation goes with the quote instead of outside on the citation. So that is this week's lesson on citation, which we're practicing in discussion. Again, remember that you're doing this article um, not the Joanna McKay essay that I used for the example. Okay, happy quoting.